Smart TVs secretly scanning your Wi-Fi, robot vacuums watching through hidden cameras, and devices that record conversations they were never asked to. These are more smart devices that recorded something they shouldn't have. People who bought a Skyworth smart TV started noticing something was feeling off. A user on the Chinese forum V2X dug into the Android-based TV and found an app they didn't recognize running in the background. It was called GoZen Data. As they poked around, it became clear the TV wasn't just checking for updates, it was repeatedly scanning the home Wi-Fi network and logging what it found. The app collected device names, IP addresses, usernames. It also picked up nearby Wi-Fi names and hardware IDs, then sent everything back to servers linked to gzdata.com. That platform handled data from over 1 million smart TVs. Skyworth said the data was meant for advertising, not spying, but after the backlash, they said they stopped using the service and disabled the app. But a journalist named Xing Jiang saw similarities with a government program called Project Zuliang, pointing out the overlap in how the technology works. The project is a government surveillance program that uses internet-connected devices to collect and share data. The journalist said the smart TVs use the same kind of software setup, which means the data they collect could be used for more than just ads. And a legal scholar identified only as Song to the media said this kind of data collection could fit into a bigger push to control information, saying the government is strengthening control of people's data for purposes of ideological control, and that authorities want to decide, quote, what news and information is appropriate. In 2024, Australia's ABC took a popular robot vacuum, a D-Bot X2 made by Ecovacs, which is one of the biggest home robotics brands in the world, found out it had a serious security problem. A guy named Sean Kelly, an owner with a bunch of kids at home, had bought his vacuum thinking it was safe, a handy gadget. Instead, it turned out to be like, quote, having a webcam that can roll around your house and look at your family, he said. The ABC reporter didn't just take Sean's word for it. With help from a cybersecurity researcher, Dennis Gisa, they were able to hack the vacuum without even going inside the building. Using only Bluetooth, they connected to the robot system from outside, and suddenly they could see what its camera saw. Pictures of Sean making coffee in a workplace kitchen started streaming to their laptop. Then they talked to him through the vacuum, saying, "Hello, Sean, I'm watching you." And that caught his attention. He had no idea they were able to do that. He also had no idea when he was being watched. The camera recording warning sound never went on. It only popped up if accessed through the official app, not when someone else was taking control. Ecovacs had been warned about the flaw in December 2023, but hadn't fixed it by the time of the test. An Indian engineer named Harashankar Narayanan bought a cheap iLife A11 robot vacuum. It worked like any other little cleaning machine at first, mapping rooms, cruising around under the couch, but he got curious about what it was doing behind the scenes. He checked what the vacuum was doing on his home internet and found the vacuum was constantly sending information back to company servers overseas, even when it wasn't cleaning. We're talking steady, repeated communication. Harashankar didn't like that, so he blocked the vacuum from talking to those servers while still allowing basic software updates. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then the vacuum suddenly stopped working. It was completely dead. He sent it in for repairs. The company said nothing was wrong and sent it back. The moment it reconnected to his home network, it worked again. As soon as he blocked those servers a second time, the vacuum shut itself down again. Every time it couldn't talk to the cloud, it just stopped working. Harashankar opened the vacuum and found it was basically a small computer running Linux. Inside the system logs was a command sent remotely at the exact time the vacuum died. So basically, something on the company's end had told it to shut down. Once you removed that control and ran the vacuum without outside connections, it worked normally. But there's an unsettling implication here. It's almost like we don't really own our own technology anymore. A lot of modern devices only work if they stay connected to company servers. Cut it off and the device can stop working altogether. Our gadgets constantly report back to the companies that made them, and those companies can decide to restrict access or disable products technically whenever they want. So if a robot vacuum can be shut down for trying to protect privacy, fair to wonder what that means for other devices. From a now deleted Reddit user comes a story about a smart doorbell being hacked. The user wrote, "I've got a mid-range smart doorbell hooked up to my Wi-Fi. One night around 11 p.m., I got a motion alert and opened the app. A live feed came up. already moving, like the camera angle was shifting slightly, left then right, before I touched anything. At first I thought the app was lagging, then the speaker icon lit up for half a second, like someone had tapped it. No sound came through, but I hadn't pressed anything. I checked my account activity and saw a login from a device I didn't recognize. Same country, different city. I changed my password, kicked all sessions, turned on two-factor, and it stopped. The weird part is the company later emailed saying there had been unauthorized access using valid credentials and suggested I reused a password somewhere. Probably true, but it still messed with my head knowing someone could have been watching my front porch in real time. I unplugged it for a week after that. And Reddit user MidnightOil_00 writes, has anyone ever had their smart bulbs record and replay commands? Think I'm losing my mind. I have those cheap Wi-Fi bulbs in my hallway. Last night around midnight, I got up to get water. As I walked into the hall, the lights didn't just turn on, they started flickering in a weird rhythmic pattern. On for 2 seconds, off for 1, dim to 10%, then full brightness. It looked exactly like what I do when I'm trying to get my toddler to laugh during the day. I checked the app to see if a scene was running, but the app said the bulbs were offline. Then my smart TV in the living room turned on. It didn't show a show, it just stayed on the input selection screen, scrolling through the options rapidly. HDMI 1, HDMI 2, AV, over and over again. I ended up flipping the breaker in the living room because the remote wouldn't respond. My neighbor mentioned this morning that his universal remote had been acting up and bleeding into other apartments because the walls are so thin here. I really hope that's all it is, because watching my house mimic my afternoon routine while I was home alone at midnight was probably the eeriest thing I've ever experienced. Reddit user HonestKnee2482 sent out a little public service announcement regarding smart TVs. They said they were just watching a show one night and poking around the settings when they noticed a section that didn't look familiar. After clicking through it, they realized the TV had been quietly logging everything they watched, the exact times they watched it, and how long they stayed on each show. The TV also had location data tied to it. That sent them down a rabbit hole. After doing some reading, they learned this kind of tracking is standard for a lot of smart TVs. The technology behind it is called Automatic Content Recognition, or ACR, which basically lets the TV identify what's on screen and build a detailed viewing profile that can be sold to advertisers. Once they understood what was happening, they made a few changes. They tracked down the ACR setting and turned it off, even though it was buried deep in the menus. They also disconnected the TV from the internet completely and switched to using a separate streaming service instead, choosing one with tighter privacy controls. Since then, the Reddit user said they've been side-eyeing every other smart device in their home, wondering what else is collecting data. This next story comes from Reddit user AxRuse99234. Who had a very unsettling encounter with her baby monitor. She writes, I bought a cheap baby monitor off an electronics site to use as a pet cam for my cat while I'm at work. It worked fine for a week, but yesterday I noticed something that made my stomach drop. I was at my desk at the office checking the app. The camera angle was different. I always keep it pointed at the cat tree, but it was tilted down toward the floor. I figured the cat bumped it, so I used the app to pan it back up. As soon as I stopped moving it, the camera immediately panned back down. I tried to pan left, and it resisted, pulling back to the right. It felt like I was playing tug-of-war with someone on the other end. I checked the account settings and realized I'd never changed the default admin password. I looked at the logged-in devices list, and there were 2 IP addresses, mine at work and one local IP that I didn't recognize. I rushed home and unplugged the thing. The thought of some random person playing with my camera for who knows how long made me throw the whole thing in the trash. Back in 2019, a pair of security researchers named Noam Rotem and Ran Lokar found one of the biggest smart home data leaks ever. A Chinese company called Orvibo, which runs devices like smart cameras, locks, and full home automation kits, had a massive database left completely open online. No password at all. The database had more than 2 billion logs, including email addresses, usernames, device info, precise locations, passwords, and account reset codes. Basically, millions of smart home users had sensitive personal data sitting completely exposed, with almost nothing stopping it from being stolen. The passwords weren't properly secured. It would be super easy for hackers to crack them, but forget that. The reset codes were even more dangerous because anyone with access could lock users out of accounts and take over their devices entirely. Orvibo devices were used in homes, hotels, and businesses across multiple countries, and this wasn't just a digital problem. Since the devices include cameras and smart locks, there was a real threat of physical security too. Security experts recommended changing all passwords and disconnecting smart devices until the breach was fixed. Reddit user Stiuso shared a creepy experience with their mom's Alexa in a thread about creepy Alexa stories. They said they were visiting their parents. Stiuso and their mom were sitting quietly in the living room reading, with dad at work and their brother at school. The house was completely silent, but then out of nowhere, Alexa in the kitchen shouts, "Help!" in this distorted, staticky voice at full volume. They both jumped and just stared at each other. Alexa did it a second time, so they went into the kitchen. The device was on, but the usual light that points toward whoever's talking to it was aimed at a dark corner. Stiuso's mom asked, "Alexa, are you okay?" And the device immediately went silent. When she tried again, Alexa came back to normal, speaking in her usual friendly voice at regular volume. Stiuso said it hasn't done anything that creepy since, but their parents notice it will randomly turn on by itself, reading facts or the weather, even when the house is quiet, and no one could have triggered it. And finally, this Reddit user told a story about their smart device listening in on a very specific conversation. They write, "I've had a smart speaker in my kitchen for years without issues. One afternoon, my partner and I were talking quietly about a job interview she hadn't told anyone about yet. No wake word, no commands, we were just talking while cooking. Later that evening, she opens her phone and sees ads for interview coaching, resume services, and that exact company name. Not the industry, the actual company. I checked the voice history in the app. There was a short audio clip logged at the exact time we were talking. The transcript clearly included part of our conversation. Customer support said it was an accidental activation, but we never heard the usual chime, and the device was across the room." Well, with all that said, I've been your host, James. I will catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next video.